and CBC Podcasts. It's a story about love, deceit, and survival, and it's available now. Find out more at the end of this podcast.
By the time you were 2.5, you really hadn't grasped basic speech, so I spoke to the health visitor, told her I was concerned, and you went on the waiting list for a speech therapist. So even then I wasn't too concerned, because children, obviously very small children, develop differently.
What are you doing today, Sean?
At 3.5, when you started nursery, I remember having to go into the nursery before you started to explain to them that you were on the waiting list for speech therapy. Had been for a year, that we were on it for a year by then. And the only two things that they would be able to understand you saying that I knew what you meant was mum and B. So obviously I was concerned, how were you going to communicate with them? What if you wanted anything? People at school, friends, teachers, dinner ladies, swimming teachers, anybody that tried to communicate with you. We knew then that it was going to be a problem.
I'm Sean Alsop, and I'm a radio producer. When I was 7, I was diagnosed with a phonological sound disorder, and that audio you just heard is me. It's from around the time of my diagnosis. I couldn't articulate my words, so no one could really understand me. My disorder means my speech misfires, so any communication can sound garbled on its way from my brain to my mouth, as if the words have been scrambled. And at 4 years old, there was only 2 words I could say clearly: B and mum.
7.5, we got you the diagnosis. By then there was no speech therapy. I was fortunate enough to get one appointment over with a speech therapist, and she saw you and agreed to send me work every few weeks. And yeah, I remember in his report he said that Sean would still benefit from regular speech therapy. It was hard, Sean, it was hard, but what I couldn't possibly imagine is how hard it would be without the help that we did get.
I had 4 years of speech therapy, and I think it changed my life. But it was a battle for my mum, Sharon, to find me that help. Resources are sparse here in the UK. The National Health Service, or the NHS, offers speech assessments, and if a child is deemed to need speech therapy, they are put on a waiting list, where a specialist therapy association will provide one of their speech therapists to assist the child. But in some parts of the world, there are no such associations, meaning there are no qualified speech therapists.
Hi, this is Mary.
Hi Mary, it's Sean calling from the BBC.
Hey Sean, how's it going? Nice to hear from you.
Good. This is Mary Winder, a travelling speech therapist. I found her when I was researching how other children around the world find help. So why did you want to be a speech therapist? What was it that's important?
Speech-language pathology, or speech therapy as it's known as in many countries, is more than just a profession. It's really a vocation. You know, as a speech-language pathologist, we get to be part of another person's communication journey and have the opportunity to really use our training to empower other people to unlock their communication and help them achieve their goals that are really meaningful to them in their lives. If you think about it, communication is really at the heart of connection. And as a speech-language pathologist, I get to do that every day.
I never really knew the cause of my speech disorder. Is there a general cause for speech disorders?
In some cases, we can pinpoint what that cause might be, something structural, for example, like a cleft lip or cleft palate. But in a lot of cases, and in most cases, the disorder might have some underlying neurophysiological issues. There might be genetic predisposition, other risk factors that are a lot more complicated and difficult to pinpoint for those individual clients.
So I started my speech therapy quite early on. But what's the effects if you don't get started as a child, and how can it affect later life?
Most of our development is going to take place at a very early age. For speech sound production, for example, before the age of 5. And developmentally, persistent speech sound disorders can lead to difficulties in a lot of different areas. in one's overall development, their academic success, their social-emotional skills, which can then lead to negative and adverse impact throughout the course of their lives in things like relationships, vocations, and so on. So it can really have a snowball effect. So that's why it's really important for young kids to be screened at an early age to make sure we're identifying these children who need services really early on.
Why is speech therapy lacking in so much of the world?
Because it is a new profession, we need to do a better job of increasing public awareness about what speech-language pathology is, the services that we're able to provide, and establish training programs in different countries so that people in these countries will have trained experts in speech-language pathology that can then provide support to the residents of that country across the lifespan and helping them gain access to the services that they need for improving their overall communication.
Mary goes to the places where speech therapy isn't the norm, where children with speech delays are often written off by their own communities. My journey with speech therapy lasted for many years, and I wondered how Mary's brief interventions worked. Mary introduced me to her colleague, Chad Allen, CEO of Therapy Abroad, a company that pairs student speech therapists with countries which do not have the resources to offer support themselves. They work all over the world, from Thailand to Belize, and they are currently planning their next trip.
So we run a camp for kids. A lot of kids are just fluency disorders, and that's how we give our students the ability to get hands-on. We train them to run the camp. They run the camp with supervision from trained speech therapists and provide therapy. I think what could be really interesting for you is to potentially join us in May in Turks and Caicos.
Chad and Mary are taking 20 student speech therapists with them to the Caribbean islands of Turks and Caicos. The islands do not have any residential speech therapists, and they've asked Therapy Abroad if they can come and assess the children on Turks and Caicos who are struggling with their speech development.
Okay, just remember to bring your sunscreen. You would not be the first Brit to come to the Caribbean and go home looking like a lobster, so.
With my sunscreen packed, I'm heading from the UK to Turks and Caicos. I'm feeling a little bit nervous. I've travelled for stories before, but never about something so personal. The irony that I couldn't speak as a child, and now here I am presenting a speech documentary on speech therapy, isn't lost on me. I'm hoping this trip will help me better understand the work speech therapists do, and whether these short interventions can really make a difference in the lives of the children of Turks and Caicos. What I want to know is, what does the future of a child with a speech disorder look like in a place without any structure to help them?
Welcome aboard anyone that's just joined us, and hello to everyone that's come out of London. Nice fresh crew for you. We're almost ready to depart for the flight. My colleague up here.
This is Providenciales, Turks and Caicos. The island is fringed by sandy beaches and is famous for its ripsaw music and easy vibes. Chad. Is it Chad?
Yes.
Finally, how you doing, mate?
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Sean, it's really nice to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you in person, Mary. It seems... It felt pretty bizarre meeting speech therapists now as an adult. The next day, I was able to see firsthand their work as the camp began, in a community sports hall not far from the beach.
One of the things we really need when we're setting up a camp is a space to do it. So I'll take you in here and we'll show you what we're going to be working with. So what you're seeing is, just a huge auditorium, sports center with bleachers and space. So basically, when we set up our camps, we're going to need to separate kids. We're going to need to have them in different zones and different stations that are going to be gross motor, fine motor, speech, and STEM. So each station kind of targets a different thing, whether that's gross or fine motor, but also at the same time is working on their speech and communication.
Chad and Mary are expecting to welcome over 20 children today. Their needs range from autism, apraxia, to phonological issues. I had the chance to speak to some parents who were dropping their children off here.
I couldn't speak till I was 10, and it was because of...
Are you kidding me? You give me hope. A lot of hope.
Melanie tells me her 5-year-old daughter, Shaylee, has echolalia. It means she repeats the same sounds, but doesn't use spoken words.
It's hard because, she's 3 and about 4 months, and she doesn't communicate with me, and that makes me feel very sad. Like, sometimes I want to talk to her, and it's worse that we live here because there are no speech and language pathologists on the island. Pretty much we don't have much help. I have to research. I have to go on YouTube and do it myself. And yes, I know I'm a teacher, but I'm not a special ed teacher, so it's really hard. It breaks my heart, and I'm worried for her. I'm worried that, what if I can't move from here? What will happen to her? Would she be okay? What can I do? It's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm really stressed.
Hearing Melanie's story and her fight for help for her child made me think of my mum. Back in the community sports hall, Mary, Chad, and their other students were beginning their day, where one boy, Samuel, really brought home that these children were at the beginning of the same journey as me 20 years ago.
So this is a boy. What's he have on his foot down here?
Yeah, chew.
He has, can you try this? Shoe.
Chew.
Shoe.
Chew.
Yeah, can I touch you real quick? Shoe.
Chew.
Nice. Try. Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, good. Shoe.
Chew.
There you go. What's this? What's this thing?
It's a chew.
It's a...
Chew.
Oh, you got it. Oh, wait, hold on. What's this?
Chew.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
You're really good.
You got it.
Oh, this is crazy, this is.
What's that?
This is crazy.
Why?
It just sort of feels like
That means high five.
I remember doing all this stuff, and it just feels weird watching it.
Yeah.
But now I can see like what was the meaning behind all this.
So feedback is going to be, great job, you said it right, you got your tongue in the right spot, so they know what they did right, or they know what they need to fix for when they say it next time. Other sounds, so he had difficulty making sounds that are made with his lips. Like the B and P.
Yeah, all the same. They were all the same to me. They were all merged.
So we would have him look at us, say, close your lips, which is a verbal cue. Now watch me, right? And then I would use a hand gesture to reflect kind of a popping motion with my lips. Pop, pop. So that would cue him to close his lips and get that intraoral air pressure for pop. And he was really responsive to a lot of the cues that we did. He was so primed for speech therapy. He would just do it, and he got it.
Cat. Cat. At. Cat. Apple. Pull. 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 Apple. Those are exercises that I did growing up, and still do today, if I have an important meeting or a recording. Samuel went home at the end of day one with exercises like that to practice, and I wondered if he'd still be doing them in 20 years' time like me. His mum Tamalia told me what Samuel's life is like right now.
Everybody in his class that doesn't know him will tell him, you talk like a baby, or you talk like a 3-year-old, And when he comes home and he says that to you as a parent, that hurts you because, you don't want no one making fun of your children. Yeah,
They make me mad.
They make you mad? I tell them, don't worry about it. Eventually we would get the help to help you with your speech, and we go on from there. But it's great. I am happy for this program. It's glad to see it here in Turks and Caicos.
Can I ask Samuel a question? Because I've never...
Sure.
Hi, Samuel. I'm Sean. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. I'm good. I'm wondering, how do you feel about today and what you just did? Was it fun?
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun, and I really cry myself.
Really? Cool. And how do you think, because I've got a speech problem too. I've got a phonological sound disorder, so there are some words I can't say. But I was able to do a lot of therapy and I was able to say a lot of words. Now, your mum's going to put a lot of effort in making sure you do all these fun games. Are you going to play these fun games still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will play a fun game.
And what you want to learn at the end of this, you want to be able to
know everyone saying.
You know, understand what everybody is saying?
And Kiko down there, I go down like a 3-year-old or the baby.
No, you don't speak like a 3-year-old. You sound great, Samuel. I'll see you later, Samuel. High five. Yeah. Samuel is one of millions of children around the world who have a speech disorder. Studies from the American Speech and Hearing Association say that in the US, speech disorders affect 15% of children at any given time. A recent study in India showed 12% of children are affected. And in the UK, it's 10%.
You have phonological disorders, which is the simplification of the sound system within a given language. So the child that we just worked with had a combination of articulation and phonological disorders in his speech.
I think that was the one I'm most related to. For everything I saw, which was my speech. But like a few years ago, someone said, he just went, you speak like you sound like a 5-year-old, right? I just sort of laughed all the way, and that's stuck with me ever since. And it's just that little
I think that's the thing too. In speech therapy, we're so focused oftentimes on the goals, right? Say this speech sound right, say it this way, say it in words, say it in sentences, say it in conversation. Okay, that was good. Okay, that wasn't right. Okay, say it with me, say it again, that wasn't right. But I think oftentimes where we miss the mark is overlooking or not delving deep enough into the emotional impact of speech and language disorders. This is a 7-year-old child that's already has a negative functional impact on his life, on his understanding of himself, on his interactions with other people because of his speech sound disorder, because of his difficulties making sounds. And that's something that's so important, because not only do we want to help a kid establish their goals, right, to resolve their speech concerns, but we also want to empower them to not let whatever it is, communication-wise, hold them back.
The work that Therapy Abroad are doing in Turks and Caicos today is amazing. But they're here for less than a week, a tiny window of opportunity to unlock speech for these children. The next 3 days are for the children to continue to learn speech exercises, and for the therapists to choose which exercises will help the children best after they leave the island. Each therapist spends a whole day with one child, and it can get emotional for everyone involved.
Caribbean culture, they don't like the whole starting as get it together.
Some parents feel they have an impossible choice to make: stay where their kids cannot get the help they need, or move thousands of miles away. It's a choice Anna is facing for her son, Zion.
He always tells me, Mommy, I got punishment because I was trying to read a book and I got stuck. So in school they don't really help, because here everybody's supposed to be the same. A bit hard for him at school. And whereas we lived in Manchester, England before, and they have a different approach to how they let him speak and how they let him finish. But here, he's not used to everybody pushing him to be the same. So it's a bit of a struggle for him too, because he's only been in school here for a year.
Yeah, were you serious about thinking about moving back to Manchester?
Yep.
Wow. And how do you feel after coming in and talking about all this stuff?
It feels different talking to people that actually get it and not know you're supposed to speak properly. So it feels different. I know I wouldn't get it outside this room. So today it felt good to actually let him be around someone that doesn't make him feel like he's doing something wrong.
It's okay that you have grumpy speech. It's okay to be different. Everybody is different in some way.
And that's what we really try to promote at the end of the day. You're doing all the right things. We are. Trying. You're doing all the right things.
Mary and the team fill the day with games that help the children hold on to the lessons they're learning and be able to use them in their day-to-day lives.
You ever heard the analogy of the little ducks? Of little ducks. Like, ducks seem so calm above the water, but under the water when they're moving, their legs are going 1,000,000 miles a minute. That's kind of what it's like. We're little ducks as therapists, right? We're just like, paddle, 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 but everything is cool on top, right?
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, thighs and
How many coconuts do you see in that tree?
3.
I see 3 coconuts in that.
Y and Z. The whole alphabet.
And despite the short time frame, the remarkable thing is, I hear these children make progress.
Let's go up.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Did you see him? He said, oh, pick bubbles or something. Like, what did you say? He said, bubbles, please. He asked for bubbles like the first time he spoke. Oh my God. Feel the excitement that we feel, right?
The patience is, yes, but...
Like, you wait and you hope and you work for just that one moment of breakthrough, right? And now we know.
The first part of the camp is over. As we head out of the community hall to grab some food, Mary tells me what she feels is at the heart of her work as a traveling speech therapist.
I think, from what I'm hearing from a lot of the interviews is advocacy. Advocacy at a family level, advocacy at a policy level, advocacy at, within the school system level. Like encouraging it or like wanting it or the importance of it, right? So there's so many barriers here because there's limited awareness. And because there's limited awareness, there's limited resources. Families don't know what to do, right? They don't necessarily have the knowledge and therefore the skills, right? So knowledge has to come before skills or, kind of at the same time. But awareness needs to come before all of those things.
After 3 days and more than 20 families taking part, the speech camp is over. The Turks and Caicos government, who invited the travelling speech therapists to their country to run the camps, organised a formal presentation to say thank you. This is one of the island's MPs, Samuel Bean.
I'd like to thank you all very, very much for coming here, Turks and Caicos Islands, to help us with our young children with little speech impediments. I hope that we can work and dwell on it, and can also that you all will come back in the near future to assist us, because we would really like to have all our children in society and working and being as happy as all of us.
As she leaves the children and their parents behind, Mary tells me that she hopes that this short hit of travelling speech therapy is enough to enable these children to find their voices.
This trip was incredible. What we have learned, I think, will be revealed over time. So when we left, we provided the parents with a comprehensive report, practical strategies that they can implement at home that were tailored to the needs of each of the children that we worked with. And any experience like this really opens your heart, your eyes, and really challenges you to think about the profession and what we do in a new way. In Turks and Caicos in particular, this is the start of something new. And there are plans underway with Turks and Caicos in collaboration with Therapy Abroad to provide therapy services in this incredible country with these incredible people.
Hello.
Hey, Sean, you're home. How are you doing?
Good. Tired.
Oh, you look shattered. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was fun. It was an experience.
So what do you think you took away from the trip, Sean? What do you think you learned?
So, my experience in Turks and Caicos, I guess it just sort of gave me the opportunity to essentially see myself and everything I did through adult eyes, and basically see all the games we played, all the assessments you took me to, all the therapists you had to get me, and all these things that you had to fight for me to get the help and these services. And it just made me realise how hard it is for people all around the world who just don't have that.
Maybe it was a little bit for you, like just going back in time and seeing that you're seeing it through adult eyes now. And it's very different seeing things through adult eyes. You can perhaps understand how it would be for a parent to watch a child struggle and feel really quite at a loss of how best to help them.
And I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I didn't have these resources, so it makes me sad knowing that there's this problem in the world, but also sort of happy at the same time, because there are people, therapists out there who are going to these places and helping out and just doing their best to raise awareness to everything.
No, yeah, but the awareness and resources where it already exists, they're using that to move that around the world. So in Turks and Caicos, they're trying to set up their own therapy unit there. The only reason they're able to set that up is because they're being made aware. That's what's going to help all these kids worldwide.
I'm Sean Alsop, and The Travelling Speech Therapist is an Audio Always production for the BBC World Service.
Thank you for listening. There will be more from the documentary podcast soon. The documentary is just one of our BBC World Service podcasts. There are many others to choose from.